Hello everyone, this is Naman Bhardwaj, Salesforce Practice Team AlgoWorks. Today we'll talk about Salesforce Apex Trigger best practices. Here is the table of content. One trigger per object, logic-less triggers, context-specific handler methods, code bulkification, avoid SOQL and DML statements inside for loop, using collections, querying large dataset, use future method appropriately, avoid hard coding IDs and use of limits Apex methods. So first is one trigger per object. We should write one trigger per S object, and there are many advantages of doing this, like we can control the order of execution in a better way and track the debugs as well. We can enable disable specific logic from the master trigger and also look for the portion of code that is might be utilizing more resources than others. For example, if we have two triggers, both are on before insert on account, called create default case from account and create default opportunity from account. So in this scenario, we'll not be able to figure out which trigger will run first or which portion of code, which logic will run first. So combine these two triggers in single trigger logic and then define different methods in the handler class and call them accordingly. In this example, we have one trigger on account and its handler class. Handler class is having multiple methods that you can see here. So we have defined context specific methods in handler class and calling them from the trigger by passing the trigger.new and trigger.old context variables. So this code portion is for demonstration. We can use the different trigger templates available on Google, so you can search for them and then use them accordingly. Second is logic-less triggers. We should not write any logic directly in triggers. We can define a handler class and implement the logic and then call that class from the trigger. In this way, the code become more reusable. Third is context-specific handler methods. We should write context-specific handler methods in trigger handler class. So let's go back to the previous example and see what we have done there. So in this example, we have not written any logic in the trigger directly, and the methods are context-specific handler methods. This example covers point number 2 and point number 3. Let's go further. Code bulkification. In code bulkification, as we are aware of Salesforce governor limits, it allows limited SOQL, DML statements, etc. So in a single Apex transaction. So code bulkification is very important factor while writing the code. We should write our code for the bulk records so that trigger can perform well and we can ensure that it does not hit the platform governor limits. So further in this example, you can see the first example is for bulkified record set. So in the first snippet, you can see we are accessing the 0th element of trigger.new. So that's wrong. We should not do that, but we should process the record in bulk. In the second snippet, you can see we are accessing the trigger.new in a or through a for loop and then running our logic. So that's the correct one. In the second example, that's for bulkified SOQL. So in first snippet, you can see the SOQL statement inside the for loop. So if we do that, we'll surely hit the governor limits. But in the second snippet, if you see, we have not used the SOQL inside for loop, but we have just created a list and then iterating through that list. So that's the correct one. Further, the fifth point is avoid SOQL and DML statement inside for loop. Again, we have covered one part of it in previous example, but yes, let's just cover it as well. To minimize the risk of governor limits, we should not make the SOQL and DML statements inside the for loop. So in this example, you can see we are making the DML statement inside the for loop. If you see here, we are iterating through a list and then we are making the update on opportunity inside the for loop. So that's not a correct one. In the second example, you can see the efficient version of the same example of the same code. So here you can see we are now adding the opportunity into a list, ops to update, and then performing bulk DML operation on a list here. In sixth point, that says using collection, streamlining queries and efficient for loops. To avoid the SOQL and DML inside for loop, we should use the collections in our code. So collections are list, set and map. And yes, maps are extremely efficient to store the data and can return the elements without for loop. Let's look at the example here. So in this example, you can see we are using map here for user, and then using this map inside for loop, we are getting the user.get.account.owner ID, meaning we are getting the user record inside the for loop, but using the map, not using the SOQL statement. So that's the efficient version. So again, this portion of code, again for the demonstration purpose, to show how map can be used inside for loop. Seventh point is querying large data set. So SOQL can return up to 50,000 rows. We all know that. So that's one of the governor limits that Salesforce implies. But for the large data set, we can use SOQL for loop, meaning SOQL with for loop. It runs in the chunks and can process the more records. In this example, you will see we have written SOQL with for loop, not inside for loop, but with for loop. So here we are making a query on account where we are checking the IDs in trigger.new and IDs not in the account ID from opportunity. So that's one of the example that we can use SOQL with for loop, how we can use that. So 8th point is use future method appropriately. Salesforce allowed limited calls to the future method as well. So that's one of the governor limits again. To avoid that governor limit, use the future method efficiently. So this is an example of inefficient code. So you can see here in the for loop, we are iterating through a trigger.new on trigger.new and calling a process account method here. So process account method is a method of, again, on a different class, and that's a future method. We are calling that method inside the for loop. So that might hit the governor limit for the bulk records. So for an efficient version of it, what we can do is, in this example, you can see we are directly passing the trigger.newMap.keyset, meaning the IDs, to the future method. And now using these IDs, we can query and we can process the records as per our need. So so in this case, we'll only use one future method in one transaction. But in the previous version, as many times the for loop runs, it will call it again and again, and it might hit the governor limits for bulk records. 9th is avoid hard coding IDs. Salesforce sandbox and production IDs can be different, and if we hard coded any ID in the code, so it has high risk of failing the code logic in some different environment. So instead of it, what we can do is we can save them somewhere in custom label or custom setting and use them or read them from there. So in this example, this is very short example. In this example, we have written the SOQL statement on user, and we are matching some ID, some random ID, where some record ID is the ID, right? So we should not write this. Instead, we can store these IDs into custom level and then read those IDs from custom level custom setting and then use in the SOQL query, so that in production or in some different environment, we can directly go to the custom setting or custom label and change those IDs as per the need. So 10th is use of limits apex methods to avoid hitting governor limits. So that's for using using limit class. we can check the used and available resources in the Apex transactions. Meaning what we can do is we can implement the limit Apex methods that we have shortlisted, some that are very common in use. So these methods can be used in our logic to check how many statements or how many resources we have used so far and how much are available. So based on this we can take a call. Next is references. So this whole PPT was from the Salesforce document. I prepared it from using the Salesforce documentation. I hope you all like it. Thank you very much.